Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 28th, 2021, at 6:30, and you are at Wausau City Hall for our Common Council meeting. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up, we have roll call. Clerk will tell you when to vote.
You can press yes. Nine of the 11 members are present.
Thank you very much. All right, next item, proclamations. I will be presenting one proclamation, and we'll have some comments afterwards, but first I'll read this. On Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a complex and ongoing problem that violates an individual's safety, dignity, and humanity by a systemic and coercive pattern of physical, emotional, sexual, physiological, and economic control and abuse, and whereas domestic violence causes severe and lasting harm to people of every age, religion, identity, race, culture, and economic and social status, and whereas domestic violence is often the common denominator in many types of criminal behavior and is linked directly to all forms of violence, making anti-violence efforts that address discrimination of any kind vital to the work of ending domestic abuse. And whereas in 2019, individuals died in Wisconsin due to domestic violence at a rate of 1 death every 5 days, and it is extremely challenging to fully illustrate the scope and impact of domestic violence as the consequences extend far beyond cases that meet criteria for data collection. And whereas by observing Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we seek to increase awareness of abuse in intimate partner relationships and to implement preventative strategies and support for those experiencing domestic violence. And whereas with the unwavering support of the City of Wausau, the women's community, and victim service providers in our community, survivors will be empowered to face their grief, loss, anxiety, injuries, anger, and hope without fear of judgment, and will be understood, heard, and respected. And whereas through the inspiration, courage, and persistence of domestic violence survivors, their children, their family members, and advocates, legislation and local community collaborations have enacted protections and services for future victims and their children. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Katie Rosenberg, Mayor of the City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Wausau, State of Wisconsin, and I commend this observance to all citizens and call upon them to stand together against domestic violence and to offer compassion, support, and understanding to survivors. And I know we have a few folks here to speak on this.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, for the proclamation. We appreciate your support. I'm Jane Graham-Jennings, Executive Director of the Women's Community, and I am here annually still with the hope that one day I will work myself out of a job, that we will have a community where domestic violence doesn't exist, where every person is safe in their home. Unfortunately, we are not there yet. We keep working. We keep fighting to ensure that people and everyone is safe. This year has been tough in 2020. The End Domestic Abuse Wisconsin just put out their homicide report on domestic violence-related homicides, and it's the highest number of homicides due to domestic violence in the state of Wisconsin since they started collecting that data. We've already had tragic homicides in Marathon County due to domestic violence this year, too. The reason we have Domestic Violence Awareness Month is so we can raise awareness for people who, fortunately in their lives, have not been touched, who haven't had to experience it, and maybe who don't understand, to help them get a greater understanding. We also have Domestic Violence Awareness Month so that every person who is experiencing abuse and pain and loves someone who is intentionally hurting them knows that they're not alone, that we as a community stand behind them, that we support them, we hear them, and we see them. So I thank you all for your support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have a number of activities that we're putting on to raise awareness. You can go to our website to see the dates and the times and what we're doing. And it takes all of us to make this difference. So as I do every year, I plead with you to help me get unemployed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your important work. All right. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is public comment. I have folks who have pre-registered for matters appearing on the agenda and other public comment. First person I have is Bruce Grau.
I'm Bruce Grau, 1115 North 10th Street, Wausau. Deny, delay, deflect, and deceive. These four verbs describe the predictable tactics that polluters use in response to a claim against them. An environmental justice resolution directs us to hold responsible the violators of pollution who use such tactics. It addresses the needs of those most impacted through deliberate, active engagement backed by the resources of the state and federal government. These resources alleviate the burden of costs from cash-strapped local governments and homeowners. These resources lead to a cleaner environment benefiting everyone. Furthermore, these resources are directed to localities identified by robust environmental advocacy. By adopting an environmental justice resolution focusing on equity, this council becomes such an advocate. An equitable approach benefits all by raising from the bottom. Wausau has directly impacted citizens who are very engaged and yearning for the support from this city council, from the DNR, and from our federal government. Passing this resolution tells them you accept the reality of the situation, not deny. You call for prompt attention to their concerns, not delay. You become laser focused on remedying the problem, not deflect. And you remain truthful and transparent through the entire process, not deceive. It tells them that you are better than the polluters. Passing this resolution tells them you hear them and you have their backs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Terry Killian.
Good evening, Terry Killian, 133 East Thomas, Wausau, co-spokesperson for Citizens for a Clean Wausau. At this point in time, I'm sure that all council members are acutely aware of the fact that Citizens for a Clean Wausau has always been and continues to be in support of the Environmental Justice Resolution. Tonight is a very special and positive night. We're seeing a responsiveness from our local government to long-standing and important citizen concerns. Citizens have worked for and hoped for a very long time that their concerns would be seen, that their concerns would be heard, and that their concerns would be respected. CCW wishes to thank the City Council for your support of the Environmental Justice Resolution. There will be very little doubt that our local history will look fondly upon your actions tonight to support and to protect the citizens of the city of Wausau by passing this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Rita Pockel.
Rita Pockel, 1310 Maple Hill Road, Wausau. Whether you live in District 7 or 6 or 3 or any of the other districts, environmental justice is important to us all. What happens to one of us happens to all of us because we are one community. I am asking you to vote yes for the Environmental Justice Resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, I have Gary Gisselman.
Thank you very much. Gary Gisselman, 319 Park Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin. Again, I come before you First of all, to reaffirm the action of the Committee of the Whole in passing this environmental justice resolution. As the City Council moves forward in the future dealings with environmental contamination, Wausau will be in a league with the federal and state governments to actively engage the citizens in dealing with decisions for meaningful solutions to the environmental issues that we face today. I urge you to pass on the environmental resolution that you have in front of you. This certainly puts Wausau on the Wisconsin stage, and I think large municipal organizations within the state of Wisconsin will note that what Wausau is doing here, what hopefully Wausau will be doing here this evening. I think it really demonstrates to the rest of the state of Wisconsin and to the nation, of course, that Wausau here is struggling with environmental contamination, but it also is willing to face the issues that need to be done to solve these issues. And I look forward to your passage of the environmental justice resolution this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we have a special guest tonight, Executive Director for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, that's a mouthful to say, Jerry DeShane, and he has a little bit of a presentation on the role of city council members and what we should be doing here, and I know we've been going through a lot of different discussions, so thank you for coming and visiting with us today. I'll just let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Rosenberg, members of the council. I just hit a timer on my watch, so it should go off and hush me. Otherwise, if you get tired of me, just let me know. I'm the executive director of the league. I never want to assume anyone knows anything about what the league is. So we've been around since 1898. We were created by the cities and villages of Wisconsin for, frankly, a very simple purpose. Our job is to help you do your job, whatever that entails. We have 2 full-time attorneys at the league. We have 2 full-time lobbyists who work with the governor and the state legislature. We also have a team that puts on, I never have this number right, about 3 dozen educational workshops a year, everything from a conference for attorneys to what we call Local Gov 101. How many of you have attended 101? It's basic training in governance. Well, along that line, we created the brochure that you have in front of you. I kind of whimsically titled it, "Oh my God, I won, now what do I do?" Because quite often, there was a companion brochure that went with this. It was for people considering running for office. And the reason we prepared that is a lot of our new members, a lot of our new council members or village board members were telling us there's just not sort of a basic what is my job out there. And so we wrote something for candidates, and then when we thought, well, heck, we wrote something for candidates, why not prepare something for people that actually do the job? So what you have in front of you in about 17 pages are what I would call the greatest hits of local legislative service. And when I say hits, I mean this kind of hit. You know, the kind where you look at something and go, don't, afterward. I am the primary author of the document, although it's been reviewed by both of our attorneys and a number of other people in our staff. And just for what it's worth, I have spent 20 years on local school boards. So a lot of what you're reading in here are mistakes that I've made over the years and frankly learned the very hard way. But if I may, I'll walk through this. The other thing I gave you was a copy of my business card. And there's just one telephone number on there. That's my cell phone number. And I urge you to use that. When in doubt, I tell people, when in doubt, call a league. And if you don't know who to call me. This is still a very human business. And we have probably one of the state's biggest websites. There are 1,700 pages of information on that website. That frankly is a little excessive. There shouldn't be that many. But it can sometimes be daunting to figure out what you need or where to get it. Call me. and we can talk through it, and I can put you on the right path. But let me walk through a little bit of what's in this brochure. And by the way, interrupt me as we go along, and I will try to stick to my 10-minute limit here. The United States government at every level is what's called a representative democracy. There's a small group of people who were chosen by the citizens to represent them and make decisions on their behalf. That's you. You know, that's frankly a very great honor, but also a very great responsibility. The United States Senate and United States House of Representatives, 535 people with roughly the same job that you have. It just makes more sense to get a small group of citizens together, talk about things, and reach a consensus on them. Representative democracy. And what you decide matters, but also how you decide it matters. People look at us, look at school board members, city council members. You set the tone for civic life in your community. You really do. I was a school board member in Stoughton, and we happened to be going through some very rough times, frankly. It seemed like we couldn't agree on anything. And I can't tell you how many times people came up to me in the grocery store and said, you know what? Those Monday night school board meetings on community access are some of the best television out there. And that was not a compliment. But we just couldn't get anywhere. And unfortunately, the community often picks that up and they follow our example. I suspect there are some different points of view on this council. I don't say that with any foreknowledge, but frankly, if you didn't have different perspectives, there wouldn't need to be 11 of you. I mean, we often forget that. If we all agreed on something, we could just have Alder Peckham here, and he could just do the work, we could all go home. But the reality is representative democracy was established because we have different perspectives. So we talk about how to get there. And this booklet, I would encourage you to take the time to read it. We mentioned Robert's Rules of Order. You all know what Robert's Rules of Order is. It's a book that's 806 pages long. I would encourage you not to read it. It's just, you'll come away confused. The reality is this sort of democracy comes down to about a dozen words. Be fair, be civil, take turns, and stick to one subject at a time. That last one, I think you all know how painful things can get when the conversation starts to zig and zag through the woods. I would also add, listen, 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 especially to people you disagree with. What people that do what you do, like Alder Rasmussen, you've been doing it for a long, long time. What you find after a while is if you listen to people that you may not agree with, sooner or later you'll find, well, okay, I don't want to do it her way, and I don't want to do it his way, but you know, if we pulled about 4 of those and about 2 of those, we could come up with a third way, and it would work. And that, quite frankly, is the magic of representative democracy, is finding the third way that is the better way. Who's in charge? This is a huge challenge for the League of Municipalities. I was over in Minnesota last week. Their municipal league invited me to a planning meeting. And over in Minnesota, you have one form of government. You have the council, you have the mayor, and you have the city administrator. That's it. All 803 units of government in Minnesota, that's the way they're formed. Here in Wisconsin, we have the mayor-council form of government, the manager-council form of government, the mayor-administrator council form of government, the mayor-manager council form of government, the village board form of government, the village board administrator form of government, and the village board administrator or manager or clerk treasurer administrator form of government. It's confusing. But the reality is in Wisconsin, you have far more latitude, you the council, to decide on both your form of government and your rules of operation than your peers over in Minnesota do. And that's good, but it can get very confusing. A couple of general principles, if I may. Stay in your lane. This is probably our most common problem. Don't let the mayor get in your business. Don't get in the mayor's business. If you had a manager, I'd be saying the same thing. And oh, by the way, take the time, everyone sitting here, and I'm talking to the mayor as well, and clearly define whose business is what. There are a lot of cities in, no offense, mayor or anyone, but there are a lot of cities in the state that actually have a planning meeting after the election. Do you do that? Or a strategic plan meeting, anything like that?
We don't, but we are working on it.
Okay. I would strongly encourage you to look at it. Over in Eau Claire, the name is, one of the suburbs of Eau Claire, has an excellent planning meeting. And it's not so that the mayor can win you over to anything or the council can put the mayor in her place. It's so that everybody can understand what the rules of the road are and how we will proceed. We're going to disagree. It's written into the process. But if you understand what your own local rules of the road are, things will be a lot more smooth going forward. But I would encourage every council to do that going forward. I'm going to run out of time, so I want to get to budgeting because, again, these were learned the hard way by a lot of your peers around the state. I'm going to pass along 4 basic rules of budgeting. First rule, there's never enough money. No matter how much money you have, there's never going to be enough. Second rule, deferring it always costs more than fixing it. A lot of cities find that out. There's a statistic in a research report we did on roads that the cost of reconstruction is roughly 6 times the cost of ongoing repair. So no matter how much money you're spending on an ongoing basis, it's generally still cheaper than rebuilding a road that's been let go. So deferring it always costs more than fixing it. Third rule, you can't borrow your way to a balanced budget. Sadly, there are municipalities in Wisconsin that have tried. And what happens is first of all of them get voted out of office, they're replaced, and then basically the city's budget is stripped to the bones for 5 years while they get things back in order. Wisconsin law does not actually allow a city to go bankrupt. So you will have to weather, or you would have to weather an awful lot of agony to fix what needs to be fixed. And lastly, one-time money should only pay for one-time programming. There is a lot of federal money on the table these days. I have no idea what Wausau's allocation is, but one-time money should only pay for one-time expenditures. By the way, before I get off that, I know you're probably talking a lot about your ARPA allocation.
15.6 million. There you go.
You dream about that number. Nightmares, I'm sure. There's another number I'd ask you to consider, and that's $350 billion. In addition to the money that was allocated directly to Wausau, to Schofield, to Rothschild, to Rib Mountain, there is an even bigger set of resources available to you in the form of a lot of programmatic grants. If that hasn't been researched, I strongly urge you to take a look at that because there are as many or even more opportunities available through the American Relief Act. Okay, then lastly, I have 2 pitches. The first one is our annual conference is coming up in Green Bay, October 20th through the 22nd. I would love to see all of you there. We will have 26 different workshops on everything from tax increment financing to PFAS to my time is up. But my last pitch to you, and I'm going to steal 30 seconds more, is get involved and get to know your local legislators. Senator Jerry Petrusky is a wonderful human being. State Representative Pat Snyder is a former radio guy, and as a former radio guy, I can testify all radio guys are wonderful human beings. And John Spiros is a Marshfield alderman. The league is fairly successful at lobbying the state legislature. We do okay. But I guarantee you that each individual seated here has more influence on their lawmakers than I do. And I have quite a bit. So bring them in here, talk to them about issues that you are facing as a council. Talk to them about it, get to know them personally, and it'll make a huge difference for you in the long run and all of your municipal partners. I jumped around a little bit, Did I miss anything? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to challenge me on anything I said?
I would love it if there were questions. This is a great discussion. Yes, Alder Peckham,
Usually good for one.
at least.
We've had a lot of discussion on some contentious issues, and there was one over on the county board side, and there was a very interesting thing that struck me because I've always been interested in how we are supposed to decide to vote. How much credence or how much weight we put behind how many phone calls we get or what we hear, when we go for coffee or whatever. And one of the longtime county supervisors was defending his position, and he was going to vote against something. And people were saying, well, if you're a good leader, you will know that you should vote yes on this. And he said, no, I'm not going to. And he said, the people who voted me into office didn't do so because they thought I was smarter than them. I was wondering if you could just reflect on that.
Dangerous. I like it.
That's the classic, you're not going to win this one situation. In the pamphlet, there's an entire paragraph that starts off with, be prepared to say no to your friends. Because there will be and I want to give a full answer because that's not the full answer. But there will be time where a friend, a family member, or Rotary, whatever, women's club, the local environmental group, not to pick on you folks, and I'm not suggesting this, but there will be times where what is in the best interest of the city is not what the crowd sitting in front of you wants. Being on a school board, I can testify that there is nobody who can turn out an angry crowd better than parents. Don't get between parents and their kids. But the fact of the matter is, the crowd may or may not have all the facts. And it's your job to weigh the facts, to listen to, and basically what judges have to do, you have to sift them. Because some facts are not facts, they're just arguments. And then you have to make the decision that's in the best interest of your community. If you are concerned about re-election, that's not an illegitimate concern. Abraham Lincoln used to say that 85% of the time he votes his conscience, and 15% of the time he votes the way he has to so he can come back and vote his conscience. There is a place for pragmatism, but over time, and like I said, I was on a school board for a long, long time, even when people disagreed with me, if I listened to them, if I took their concerns sincerely and didn't just say, oh yes, I'm listening, with the fake smile on my face, they would respect me, they'd move on. But yeah, there are times when you got to take the hard vote because that's really what's in Wausau's long-term best interest. Can I tell you what those are? No. That's going to change from month to month. It seems like a very long answer, and I don't think I went around, I tap danced around it.
Any questions from anyone else? I guess the only thing that I would ask is something I keep hearing. Is the political climate so much worse these days than it was before, whenever before was, when they were having duels out in front of city halls and things like that? I'm just curious. I mean, you've been around legislative bodies, you've been around contentious issues, you've been around, maybe not pandemics, but issues that really cause, I don't think you've been around.
Given Mayor Rosenberg, the last one was 100 years ago. No, I've not been here for a pandemic.
But I mean, I guess my question is, your data points that you've collected over your career, I mean, is this so much worse than it has been? And are we so much different than other communities?
Oh, well, let me answer the last one first. No. No, there are communities all over the state that struggle with how to move on, how to move forward. I hate to be the one that says, oh, the political climate is more difficult. But on the other hand, the league, for the first time in its history, about 2 years ago, we had to hire Eric Giordano. He is actually a consultant to the league to provide conflict management counseling to city councils. And in case you think this is unusual, we got the idea from Minnesota, which had hired one a year earlier. Optimistically, I think what's happening is there's a lot of new people in local government. And I think with new people comes sort of, thinner skin, not thinner skin in that sense, newer skin. It takes time, and you have to go through a few battles to develop calluses. And I think what's happening is a lot of newer people in local government at all levels are working themselves into disputes that with a couple of more sessions of seasoning, they wouldn't have gotten into. Frankly, that was one of the motives behind writing this pamphlet, was to kind of help, just provide some wisdom from people that have already made these mistakes to kind of help local governments through. But no, Wausau is certainly not alone. School boards, frankly, are having an even worse time of it right now than we are. A lot of reasons for it. I'm not going to take sides. It's one thing I want to say about the league. If you have preconceptions of the league, we are not a partisan organization. We don't endorse candidates, but nor do we lean leftward, rightward, upward, down. We don't lean anywhere. We are here to help you do your job, whatever that takes. That is our job. At the end of the day, what I used to say to local governments is, it's our job to tell you what the law says you can do. What you choose to do within those boundaries is entirely up to you. So.
Okay. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us today. I wish we had cupcakes or cookies for you, but,
I don't need them. No, I seriously, thank you all very much for inviting me. I love getting out and getting a chance to talk to our members. And two, don't hesitate to call me. I'd love to talk with you, even if you just want to bounce something off me. Mayor, thank you very much.
thank you so much.
I'm going to stick around for a while.
Oh, yeah, we love that. You're getting claps. I do want to say, when you mentioned a couple of things and staff members' eyes lit up, even public access back there, I was very pleased that you mentioned them, so thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. We're doing file number 210901 through file number 210911. I would entertain a motion. I have a motion by Herbst and a second by Peckham. Any comment here? I'm not seeing any, but I'll let Mary let you know when you can vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Next up, mayor's appointment. I have one making sure. I have one appointment, Chris Norfleet, to the Liberation and Freedom Committee. I would entertain a motion. A motion by Killian, second by Watson. Any discussion? Any questions? Not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for agreeing to serve. Next up is file number 210808. That is a resolution from the Committee of the Whole in support of environmental justice. Motion by Neal, second by Killian. I think we're ready to, I guess I'm just going to give you a little update. In your packet, you saw the lines where I updated from the Committee of the Whole. If there are any questions, I would love to answer them, but I see folks are ready. So Alder Killian, why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this has been a very positive, collaborative process in many regards, and where we've arrived tonight with this resolution, I believe is a good composite of different perspectives and contributions. I think there's been collaboration between the community and the government, between members of this body, whether through different iterations of resolutions or amendments and language contributing to them, and also from the mayor's office with the draft of the resolution that we had reviewed at the Committee of the Whole. So I think we've seen this type of integration of work and perspective before as a body and as a team. And when it's happened in the past, it has usually come to an outcome that is very positive and perhaps even more refined than what we had started with initially. So I think that this has been a long time coming, and there's been a lot of good contributions all around. So I look forward to seeing this pass tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'll capture this moment because I'm going to say I agree with Alder Killian.
Noted.
I think we are also in a way better place. I think that we started out in a very conflictual place. And I think that by taking some time and working together and considering alternative versions, rather than just steaming toward, the either approval or disapproval of one draft, I think we've emerged with a better product. At first blush, with the first draft, I was really concerned about, impacts that would have to our commerce and business sectors. I think that by referring the item to Committee of the Whole and coming together as a collaborative body to hash it out as a committee, and then taking, 3 different versions and picking things from them all, we've come to a product where we can have a positive outcome on a positive environmental message about clean neighborhoods and safe air, land, and water. But we also then have been able to mitigate the most concerning statements that were in draft number 1. And so I think tonight, if we pass this, whether we pass it unanimously or not, I think that we are emerging in a better place. And I think that our business and commerce sectors that came to us with some concerns over that first version can rest assured that, even though we have moved forward with an environmental justice resolution, that the impacts that they were worried about are not happening. So I actually will support this tonight as well. I think we've come out the other side way better than we began.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to say I'm proud of everybody in this room. As Alder Rasmussen said, Alder Killian said, it's been a long road coming. It's been long. It's been exhaustive, and I don't know what else to say. But other than not only am I proud for everybody in this room who have come forth and worked on this, and I fully intend to support this tonight, and if this goes forward, I'm for once glad to see Wausau in front, setting the whatever you want to call it, setting instead of following behind. And Wausau so many times has always followed up behind every other towns and municipalities. This way we're setting a standard, and I'm proud for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Peckham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote for this, and I hope all the rest of the alders do as well. I'm not going to vote for it because I feel that in the past, leaders of this city have deceived or done a disservice intentionally to the people, especially we're talking about the Thomas Street corridor and that part of the city. I think what did happen was that in 10 years ago or more, I think city leaders learned about a situation. They took their best shot at how to move forward, and they didn't bring the community along with them. I think that's one of the things that Alder Killian has really championed is slow down a little bit and make sure that everybody understands what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that wasn't done in the past as well as it could have been. It wasn't out of malice or neglect or anything, but it didn't happen. And I think one of the underlying messages in this resolution is that we're going to keep people informed, or we're going to make the extra effort It's already had a little spillover. Planning Commission last week took an action to double the distance that they're going to go if somebody's going to ask for a conditional use permit. We're doubling the distance that where people get notification of that potential change, because people don't like surprises. So I think this might, this discussion might have already had some positive spillover. So let's do this thing.
Thank you. Alder Wadinsky.
Well, I have some constituents that maybe feel that the federal government and the state government are more than adequate to take care of some of these problems. However, I feel that the city government needs to push them to get it done. And this is our way of starting that push. And with this being a fairly new federal tagline, I feel we may have the opportunity for some funding to help benefit the citizens of our community once this passes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alder Watson.
So I just had a real quick question about the last further resolved. I love the rewrites, by the way. They were
Thank you.
wonderful. But are we still, is the plan to use the EPA's EJ screen data, or was it going to be our own infrastructure? Because they said they could import it, right?
Yes, I think
So
we got
then
to the point where we
That's
could.
pretty accurate? Okay. It's not like going to be a new purchase or anything?
I'm looking at, nope, we're good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Are we ready to vote? Awesome. I think we're ready.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 8-1.
Thank you very much. All right. We're excited. I'll allow it this one time. Okay. We are moving on to item number 201109. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee authorizing the execution of contracts related to the Enterprise Resource Planning System, known as ERP, and related 2021 budget modification, and establishing the project priority in the 2022 budget. I'll entertain a motion if we have questions. We have a motion by Rasmussen. Second by Neal. If there's any questions, we have the right folks here to answer those questions. Otherwise, I know we've gone through a couple different presentations on this. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I just wanted to communicate, I hope that we will all support this. We did have a well-researched test process and research process by the staff, and I think this system will not only streamline the way they work, but it will address so many inadequacies and inefficiencies in our current systems that we will see a new day, really, in the way our staff is able to operate and work together. So I'm hoping that we all support this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, it looks like we are ready to vote on this.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. We are now into file number 201109, another resolution from the Finance Committee approving the 2021 budget modification for Open Meeting Technologies Meeting Manager electronic voting software. I would entertain a motion. Motion by Watson, second by Herbst. Any discussion, questions? Not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. We are now into file number 201109, another resolution from the Finance Committee authorizing the 2021 budget modification for the Motor Pool Fund to transfer the 2020 surplus. I would entertain a motion. Motion by Rasmussen, second by Herbst. Any discussion or questions? I don't see anybody.
Begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. This is the part where I'm going to ask someone to offer suspending the rules 6B filing. This does require a 2/3 vote. Motion by Watson, second by Wadinsky. You don't get to discuss this.
begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. We are on file number 120219. It's a resolution from both the HR and Finance Committees amending the Employee Handbook, Section 5.08. This is about the shift differential. Maybe I'll take a motion and then, motion by Wodinski, second by Larson. And Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. Just because we don't have minutes out yet of our finance meeting that immediately preceded this meeting, finance did vote to pass this unanimously. I did read in the minutes of HR that, there were some concerns that that may not be possible, but the committee does completely understand the issues that we have with recruitment and retention. And this finally will put us in a position with these adjustments to lead the market and, perhaps compete with the private sector for talent, which has been a huge struggle for us. So, but it did pass unanimously there.
Right. We do have the HR director on the phone if there are any specific questions. Otherwise, we have everyone else. Anyone comments? Okay. I think we're ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have the file number 940828. It's a joint resolution from the Room Tax Commission and Finance approving the tourism entity agreement between the City of Wausau, the Room Tax Commission, and the Wausau Central Wisconsin Convention and Visitors Bureau, Inc. I would entertain a motion on this one. We got a motion by Neal and a second by Herbst. I'm just going to give you a little brief on this. This is familiar. We voted on our new contract a few months ago. Their lawyer for the Convention and Visitors Bureau came back. We've negotiated a little bit with our attorney and their attorney, and I think last night at our Room Tax Commission and again today at the Finance Commission, we came to a really good place. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add, City Attorney.
No, Mayor. You noted that Finance just previous to this meeting passed it also 5-0. So we corrected the resolution or updated that to your packet since the last one was drafted, indicating a joint meeting on September 14th, which didn't happen. So this reflects the actual change to the contract that we'll make. And basically, to summarize it, it's that rather than being able to terminate the contract without cause 30 days prior to any calendar quarter, they've asked us to wait until the 30 days before the fourth calendar quarter, at least give them 8-9 months in before we can give them notice to terminate without cause so they can hire an executive director and get underfoot. And so that would start calendar year 1/1 of 2022. Weston's contract currently is a calendar year, which will end on 1/1 of 22. They actually have the same language we proposed, that they can get out on 30 days notice prior to any quarter, but I don't know if the CVB will push back on that when they go to renew. But anyway, two of your committees have recommended unanimous approval, and we have set this for closed session as well. Just because if you want to go into closed session, you're certainly permitted to under that exception. If you don't think it's necessary, and I know we haven't always done that in the past, we don't need to. Thank you.
Okay, I see Alder Peckham has a comment or question, or both.
Ann kind of covered this, but so if we act in open session on this item, then the first potential closed session topic is gone.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Wodinski.
Is this a one-year contract?
Yes. At Room Tax Commission yesterday and then codified by Finance, they wanted to start the contract on January 1, 2022, so we could coincide with our budget.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Yes, Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, throw in there that, for anybody that's not aware, the state, requires room tax dollars to, be used with this sort of entity. I mean, we have to. It's not that we can just hold it back. So that's the one thing. The second thing is, the city itself is not staffed with people, with a department, if you will, that takes on this kind of responsibility, daily. And we need that sort of entity, in the background churning out on our behalf. And thirdly, this new agreement puts us in a very strong position of ensuring that we can measure success and we can also deal with the lack of success. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. This also is the result of a mediation effort and a lot of work by the mayor and the city attorney both in networking with our partner communities and our neighboring communities to make sure that we all, had an understanding. And, this really is not the first time that the local Convention and Visitors Bureau has had to reinvent itself, but that is essentially what's happening, and that is what needed to happen based on our past experience. And so going forward, part of our discussion in the Room Tax Commission last night was that next September, when we're that 9 months in, we will be looking to verify that we're getting the results that we expect from the agreement prior to renewal. The reports that we've always wanted from them we'll be looking for measurable results from the contract, and then transparency in that communication. And a lot of the things that we were asking for in the mediation, they've already taken steps to start, and they are in the midst of a search, I believe, for a new director, which really will set in motion a new, just kind of a new game plan there. And so I think that we're in a good place with where we're at.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you need a motion then to waive the closed session and just
Nope.
go
We
ahead and
just
vote on it?
don't read it and do it.
Okay, thank you, because I'm all in favor. Let's just do it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, we can just do this thing. All right. I think we're ready.
You may begin voting. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now, next up, we have public comment and suggestions before our second closed session. So if there's anybody from the public that didn't get a chance to say anything but would like to, your 3 minutes are here. Yes.
How you doing?
Hi, thank you.
My name's Christian Orfley. Do I got to take off my hat? I feel kind of
you're
weird.
good.
You know what I'd like to say, I hope the community really respect what you guys did tonight. I respect what you do a lot. I hope they do understand you do bring balance. Everybody needs it. And I like what you do. I love what took place over this period. It wasn't easy, it wasn't fun, but, anybody who's trying to get somewhere got to embrace the struggle. And I think you guys embrace the difficulties of the struggle. And I hope we don't take this as a us against them, because we can all be winners, The worst type of winner is a really poor winner. Let's not use this as a negative moment, but a real good time to bring people together. So we can kind of get away from the win and lose and philosophy. Because if you win and you win, we win. So I just want to
Thank you. Would anyone else like to? Yes. Welcome.
Randy Radke, 244 Wyatt Street, Wausau, Wisconsin. Just want to thank all of you for the job you did on the environmental justice resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there's nobody else, the last item here that we have is I'm going to need somebody to read the closed session language.
I'll read it.
Alder Rasmussen, thank you.
Thank you. I move that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Paragraph 1, Sub G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel regarding a mediated settlement in Marathon County Case Number 19 CV 162, Kenneth Stankowski.
Okay, I would entertain a second. Okay, Larson? All right.
Please vote. Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you. We will be going into closed session. We might adjourn there. So thank you, everyone.